filhas da África, essência do sol, essência do ser, façamos da África flor da vida. Let us all unite and talk together to give the best we have to Africa. The cradle of mankind, the font of culture, our pride and hope and break of dawn. Ya amna wa banat Afrika, lubu asam shadu sama. Africa shajahatul hayat.
Chers collègues,
Dear colleagues, I invite you to observe a minute of silence for prayer or meditation.
merci, veuillez.
Thank you very much. Please be seated.
Chers collègues,
Dear colleagues, in accordance with our rules of procedure, I invite into the chamber our special guests. His Excellency Mr. Mohammed Idris Farah, Ambassador of Djibouti to Ethiopia and Permanent Representative of Djibouti to the African Union. Your Excellency, Ambassador.
Son Excellence, Monsieur
His Excellency Mr. Idris Farad, Ambassador of Djibouti to Ethiopia. Your Excellency Ambassador Alman Abdullayev, Ambassador of Azerbaijan to Addis Ababa. Your Excellency Honorable Gayo, Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Mayor of Johannesburg, Your Excellency Abu Mboye, Chairperson of the African Network on Climate Change, Honorable Aboudou Abayen Sibrien, Chairperson of the African Parliament Network on Climate Change. Honorable Aboudou Abayen, President of the African Network on Climate Change.
Enfin, chers collègues,
Finally, dear colleagues, I invite you to welcome our guest of honor,
Excellence et
Your Excellency Ekwe David Eturu, Speaker of the Kenyan Senate, the guest of honor of our extraordinary session.
Excellences, Monsieur le Président du Sénat,
Your Excellency, President of the Senate, Your Excellency, Ambassadors, dear colleagues, I would like to read the decision EX.CL/DEC.118 Roman 30. Decision on the holding of an extraordinary session of the Pan-African Parliament. The Executive Council, 1, takes note of the request of the Pan-African Parliament, PAP, in brackets, to hold an extraordinary session of the PAP with a view to appointing a clerk and deputy clerk of Parliament, as well as of the recommendation of the Permanent Representatives Committee, PRC, for the holding of an extraordinary session. 2. Authorizes the Pan-African Parliament to hold an extraordinary session on 6 March 2017 in accordance with the rules and principles governing the Pan-African Parliament session. 3. Requests the PAP to report on the implementation of this decision to the next ordinary session of the Executive Council of the African Union in June-July 2017. I thank you.
Monsieur Eki,
Your Excellency Ekwe David Eturu, President of the Kenyan Senate and guest of honor of the session, Your Excellency Ambassador Mohammed Idris Farah, Ambassador of Djibouti to the Federal Republic of Ethiopia and Permanent Representative to the African Union, Your Excellency Ambassador Sherif Mohamed Seri, Extraordinary Ambassador of the Republic of Chad to Ethiopia and Permanent Representative to the African Union, Your Excellency Ambassador Elman Abdullayev, Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary Ambassador of Azerbaijan to Ethiopia, Your Excellency Dr. Ashibir Gayu, Honorary Vice President of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Doyen of members of the Diplomatic Corps, Your Excellencies, Ambassadors and High Commissioners accredited to the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellencies, representatives of international organizations and development partners, Your Excellencies, Vice Presidents of the Pan-African Parliament, Mr. Herman Mashaba, Mayor of Johannesburg, Honorable Cyprian Awudu Mbaya, President of the Pan-African Parliament Network on Climate Change, Honorable Chairpersons of committees and caucuses of the Pan-African Parliament, Honorable Members of the Pan-African Parliament, ladies and gentlemen. All protocol observed. At the outset, I would request that we spare a thought for our colleagues and our collaborators who once again have been victim of an armed robbery, of a dreadful attack. Once again, the problem of our security is becoming very serious in this beautiful country, South Africa. It is therefore a great pleasure for me to take the floor this morning to wish you a happy and prosperous New Year 2007. And I also welcome you to Midrand, the seat of our beloved Parliament. I would be remiss in my duty if I did not express my gratitude and that of the Pan-African Parliament, to all our special guests who have graciously made the journey to Midrand to be here with us today, in spite of exhausting flights and multiple layovers, time differences and jet lag. I thank them for taking time off from their heavy schedules. Thank you, Honorable Speaker Ekwe David Eturu, for accepting our invitation. This is an affirmation of your affection and respect for the Pan-African Parliament. The Excellencies Ambassador Mohammed Idris Fattah and Ambassador Sherif Zeli and Armand El Abdulaziz, who have been supporting us unwavering. Thank you to the ambassadors of Africa, Asia, and Europe accredited to the Republic of South Africa. We are very pleased to have you in our midst. Our dear Honorable Vice President, Dr. Gayo, has never missed an opportunity to join us, and this was particularly the case during the previous summit. I would also like to thank the Executive President of the Parliamentary Network on Climate Change. We are honored to have you with us. In English.
Parliamentarian distinguished guests, allow me to express my appreciation to the delegation of the Council of Johannesburg. Midrand falls within the administrative jurisdiction of the Municipality Council of Johannesburg, the capital city of the Gauteng province. Honorable Mayor, the Pan-African Parliament expects a lot from you in terms of establishment of a very close cooperation with your renowned and worldwide known city. Merci une fois de plus.
Once again, thank you to all the members of Parliament from the African continent who, during these difficult times, have made the sacrifice to send their parliamentarians, indeed they are our parliamentarians as well, to these committee sittings. We are very moved by this gesture. This is an affirmation of your faith in Africa and Pan-Africanism. Lastly, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of Parliament, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being present. It is through your selfless efforts and commitment that our institution can meet the expectations of the African people as we strive to represent and protect their interests. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this opening ceremony serves a dual purpose. Firstly, it is to open the extraordinary session as authorized by the Executive Council of the African Union. And secondly, it is being held to launch the sittings of the committees. As for the extraordinary session, it has the purpose of enabling our Parliament to appoint a clerk and deputy clerk in charge of legislative business and conferences. Indeed, the former clerk resigned 6 months ago for personal reasons, and 15 months ago the deputy in charge of legislative business and conferences passed away. While we recognize the commitment shown by the interim staff appointed to these positions, at the same time that we started the recruitment process, we believe that as this process is nearing its end, now is the appropriate time for the Parliament to appoint these high-ranking officers. Waiting until the May session would continue to saddle the acting staff with discharging both their normal duties as well as their interim ones. This could affect both their official and personal lives, not to mention their health. Herein lies the rationale for the authorization request made to the Executive Council of the African Union to hold the extraordinary session. We are indeed grateful to the Union for having heeded our call. Therefore, dear colleagues, parliamentarians, we must now take our responsibility to provide our parliament with a clerk and a deputy clerk in charge of legislative business and conference. The sittings of the Pan-African Parliament permanent committees are routine. And I would like to thank the committee and caucus chairpersons and their teams for working tirelessly to prepare these sessions. Their serious approach to the preparatory work will enable them to tackle relevant and topical issues, such as the role of the Pan-African Parliament in free movement of persons and the African Parliament, or the fight against terrorism on the African continent, promoting the role of lawmakers, as well as combating violence against women through education. A parliamentary response to achieving the empowerment of women, just to name a few of the topics that our parliamentarians will be addressing at these meetings. I commend the cross-cutting approach taken to address these issues. Several committees are indeed working together on certain subjects. It compels them to give these issues in-depth consideration and experience that is no doubt preparing our parliamentarians to draft perfectly appropriate laws. We therefore urge those committees who have not yet adopted this approach to do so. For the Pan-African Parliament, 2017 is the year of training our members of parliament. And I can inform you that the first pop-up delegations will be sent to training on 22 June to Brussels, in line with the memorandum of understanding we've signed. So 2017 is also the year of great achievements, as following negotiations, Parliament signed a financing convention with the European Parliament, and the funds are available. These funds will serve to build capacity so that we become the continent's lawmakers. While awaiting the report that you will receive in May, I would like to declare that our Parliament was admitted among the organs to be reformed during the last AU summit. The high-level panel, chaired by the President of Rwanda, His Excellency Paul Kagame, honored me to serve as a member of this Parliament, a member of the panel on the reform of the AU organs. In view of all these challenges, I would like to invite you that, as in the past, we tackle head-on all the issues concerning our Parliament so that we can truly deserve the once again renewed confidence in our Parliament by our heads of state in taking into account the existence of the Pan-African Parliament, strongly expressed by the heads of state and government, henceforth requesting that all the AU texts be brought to the Pan-African Parliament. Therefore, if we do not have lawmaking powers, yet we already start to make laws indirectly. It's on this note of hope that I declare open the extraordinary session of the Pan-African Parliament and the Permanent Committee sittings of March 2017. Long live the Pan-African Parliament, long live the African Union, long live Africa, one voice. Thank you for your kind attention.
Sana, shukran.
Point of order. Point of order, Mr. President.
Point of order.
Yes. Here. Yes, Mr. President, thank you very much for your remarks. But during your communication, you omitted to mention some of the delegates who are arriving in South Africa As they arriving at Mercure Hotel, some delegates were attacked by robbers, and some of them were robbed at gunpoint. Mr. President, in the last session, we had a similar incident whereby members were attacked and some were shot at. And we had assurance from the South African government and the South African that similar incident will never occur again. Yesterday, as we were coming from the airport, there was no escort. We were attacked, and I was one of the people who were pointed a gun at, and some of our colleagues were robbed. Now, I find this is a very major omission from you, Mr. President, that in your statement, this issue was not addressed, and you did not even mention. But again, the recurrence of these robberies, especially to members of PAP,
event. And during our upcoming ordinary session, we will discuss this motion in depth, and the decision that will be taken will be presented at the upcoming summit of heads of state and government, because we cannot accept these multiple attacks. Tomorrow maybe I will be attacked, maybe you will be attacked, and other people will be attacked. It's not acceptable. We have foreigners here. Let us do what brought us here together. I beg for you to be calm, and we will address this issue. And now, honorable colleagues, I would like to give the floor to our guest of honor for his message of solidarity.
Procedure.
Yeah.
Procedure. Thank you, Mr. President. I'm raising on a procedural matter in regards to the issue that you've just ruled on. And the issue at hand is the issue of security in South Africa. Mr. President, you realize that in the previous sittings that we've had in this particular parliament, we have resolved on many issues, especially on even what is supposed to be done when members come to this Pan-African Parliament to attend sessions. Even when members of the Pan-African Parliament come to South Africa to do work related to the Pan-African Parliament. Mr. President, the member raised this because it was very pertinent, and issues of security take precedent irrespective of what is on the agenda. Mr. President, so far we have most of our friends and our colleagues in this parliament fallen prey to the insecurity in South Africa. Mr. President, as we speak, when the Ugandan delegation came to Otambo Airport, we even had to use a trick on how to reach our hotel because we realized we were alone with the driver. Mr. President, I think if we have to move forward as a Pan-African Parliament and guaranteeing our security, because we come to South Africa as diplomats, and while we are here, we are conveying the work of the African Union on behalf of the African people. Our security first, then others follow. Mr. President, are we procedurally right to continue putting this particular item on the agenda and we don't take action, especially in regards to having security in each of the vehicles that is picking members of parliament from the airport? Mr. President, are we moving procedure right? I beg to move.
Edition.
Chers collègues.
Dear colleagues.
1 minute, 1
No.
second. Point of order. What?
Chers collègues,
Dear colleagues, I believe that the problem of insecurity concerns everyone. No one will be spared. No one is spared. And in January, I was also here, and a lot of actions have been taken. I met with the Minister of Security, and I can even show you on my phone the exchange of messages that we've had at the meeting, and he reassured me that all arrangements and measures have been taken so that upon their arrival at the airport, the MPs be escorted to their hotels. That's the first thing. Secondly, I instructed the clerk to follow up on this matter on a daily basis. There has been exchange of correspondence that we can present to you. where the South African police accepted, I don't know if accepted is the right word, but they decided to shoulder their responsibility to address this matter of these attacks. And myself, I arrived at the airport at 2 a.m. I was with members of parliament, and when I left, the first thing I did, and you can ask the people from protocol with me, I went to see whether the security was in place for members of parliament, and there was nothing. And when I asked the question, I received the response that at the last minute, the South African police no longer took our calls. So that is the responsibility of the host country. And that is important. We have to take a decision. It is not the president. I can't blame the secretariat. On all missions, when you meet a minister of security, they give us guarantees. And even the speaker of the South African parliament, I was received in Cape Town. The speaker and the chairperson of the two chambers, and we discussed the issue of security. So if you want to add another item on the agenda, well, the decision of the Executive Council is clear. I said we will discuss this, we will shoulder our responsibilities, we will send a strong message, as we've done. But let us try to finish the agenda, and then we will discuss this. This is an extraordinary session. That's one item on the agenda.
No, the way forward.
Suivez d'abord. Je donne.
Please.
Assist the way forward. Honorable President, I am one of the victims of last year. Now it happened again. Not only we lost property, some of the colleagues were shot at. Now we are here to deliberate on the very important issues, but while we are waiting for May deliberation, what's the interim measure to protect us, not only from the airport, as we move to African Mall, to Santon, where we are the most important VVIPs from our national government. We are not tourists. We didn't come here to ask employment. We are very important. And every year we are being attacked. What is the way forward in the interim? Do you think I will be safe to cast my vote? My life is a threat? No. What is the way forward in the interim? They must come here and tell us.
Mr. President, say. Oh. Mr. President, say. Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President, say. Here from the host country,
yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Even though according to protocol, I may be a bit offline, you've indicated yourself, the highest echelons of authority in my country, the Minister of Intelligence, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, the South African authorities assist with the matter. It would really be a bit out of place for us now to preempt those plans which your good self and the leaders concerned have mentioned. Secondly, Mr. President,
Order.
I'm recognized. Mr.
Order.
President,
Order.
Mr.
Order.
President,
Order.
Mr. President, say, Mr. President, where the South African police notified that member X from country Y is leaving the country on this day to arrive at OR at this time and go to Mercure Hotel along this route. Is that information available, Mr. President? Was the SAPS, where the South African police informed about the arrival of these people, Mr. If we have, let me have that paper. I'll fly to Cape Town. I'll fly to Cape Town.
I don't even know how you can be defending that point.
Chers collègues,
The South heads of state.
suivez.
Where is the information? Thank
Chers
you.
collègues,
No, Mr. President.
Dear colleagues, could you please listen to me? Article 29 of our Rules of Procedure, extraordinary session. What is said there? 2/3 of the PAP MPs have and can ask for an extraordinary session at the Parliament by introducing a written request to the President. The request must be motivated and indicate in detail the issues that need to be considered during this session. The President convenes this session, which can discuss issues that are referred to in the request. The session will end at the end of the agenda. This is the rules of procedure.
Nobody planned it, but if it comes up as a leader, the security of Sierra Leoneans, Ghanaians, Nigerians, and people coming all over this country must be given priority, Mr. President. So we don't need to argue with you. Listen to our suggestions, sit down with the authorities, and let us see. Now I'm giving what has happened here. From 2008, I've been here. I was picked at the airport by police with their vehicles direct to my hotel, and I'm picked every morning direct to my hotel. I wanted to go shopping. We go to the sergeant at arms and book. They will accompany us and take us back to our hotels. So this is all what I just want to just to this noble house.
Chers collègues, je voudrais vous suggérer,
Dear colleague, I would like to suggest to you something. I've been here since 2006, and the first time when we came here, there were attacks. So let us look at the agenda. We examine that. We will take a decision, and we will send it to South African authorities, but also to our heads of state to say that we're not anymore guaranteed any security. So I have told you all what I did up to date. And the whole night I didn't sleep. And when I was informed, then we transported the person to the hospital. So this means that I'm taking this very seriously. So we'll have to decide on this issue in the second part of our agenda, since you wanted us to have a discussion on it, and you will have a decision which you will take back with you to your respective countries when you say. So we cannot take a resolution ourselves. The headquarters agreement is signed between the government of South Africa and the African Union. So you take back this resolution to your countries, which will be discussed at the African Union. I think this is what I'm suggesting to you. Thank you very much. I give the floor now to our guest of honor, the President of the Unit of Kenya. Excellency, Mr. President, you're accustomed to this kind of speeches. You're a president of a chamber, and I'm sure that you identify yourself with the atmosphere that prevails in your chamber. So how such an issue be spared by parliamentarians whose integrity is always attacked. So we would like to kindly request you not to take this into account. Please, could you please present your message? You have the floor, sir.
Mr. President, the Honorable Roger Kodo Dang, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, the Ambassador of Djibouti to Ethiopia, His Excellency Farah, His Excellency Abdullayev, Ambassador of Azerbaijan to Ethiopia, the Honorable Gayo, the Honorary Vice President of PAP, Ambassadors present, the Honorable Members of Pan-African Parliament, the people of Africa, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, good morning. I think the day has been so long that I thought it is now the afternoon. Indeed, I want to agree with the President of the Parliament that as parliamentarians, these things do happen, and you have my sympathies. Security is extremely important, but I also agree that in borrowing from my own parliament, a member can bring a matter of urgent, specific national importance, and then the President will allocate time. And I think that's the procedure I've seen you employing today. I am delighted to join you this morning to give a message of goodwill from the people of Kenya in Parliament. As a bicameral Parliament, we have two chambers, the National Assembly and the Senate. And for purposes of coordinating our affairs, the Senate manages the PAP desk on behalf of the entire Parliament, just as the National Assembly manages the CPA desk. But each of our houses transacts various businesses independent of each other, subject to the concurrence article in Article 110, Sub-Article 3 of our Constitution. Mr. President, I'm pleased that 3 years ago and 4 months, I had an opportunity to address the third ordinary session of the third legislature of PAP. It was my maiden speech as the Speaker of the Senate, having re-established the bicameral Parliament under a new constitutional dispensation in our Republic that came into force in August 2010. The first independent Kenyan Senate was abolished in 1996 and merged together with the House of Representatives to form one unicameral Parliament, the Kenya National Assembly, which lasted till 2012. I'm therefore glad that you have invited me again 5 months towards our next general election, which brings to the end the first phase of our devolution agenda. This is an important transition phase in our country, and we look forward to peaceful elections. During that speech, I posed a few questions and issues that I felt were extremely important to your deliberations. The need for continental unity, security, peace, democracy, prosperity, and stability keep coming back as recurring themes. I also promised that time, the Pan-African Parliament, that we shall cooperate fully with you. It is therefore great to be back as administration commitment and undertaking. Distinguished honorable members, today you are conducting a special plenary for the purposes of electing your clerk and the deputy clerk. Thereafter, you will embark onto your committee work. Properly capacitated parliamentary committees are necessary to improve the efficiency, economy, and effectiveness of parliaments. This capacity must be provided by the office of the clerk. As you are already aware, the duties of your clerk, like many other of our clerks in our legislatures, include elections of president and vice presidents, taking charge of all proceedings and parliamentary engagements, accounting, and the supervision of staff. I wish you well in your deliberations later in the day. Mr. President, I also wish to congratulate you for being elected as the president, because when I was here last, you are the able vice president. Similarly, I wish to pay special tribute to your predecessor, the Honorable Amadi, who upheld democracy and our internal rules when we had a small dispute about the size of the Kenyan delegation in the year 2013. This little hiccup has become the foundation of our great relationship and association. As the English say, for every cloud, there is a silver lining. I am therefore glad to report that even my counterpart, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Right Honorable Justin Muturi, and indeed our own President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta, have all found time at your invitation to come and address you. You will also agree with me that the Kenyan contingent to the Pan-African Parliament has been vibrant and very engaging since inception. Not to mention the foundational work led by your first clerk, Mr. Orunga, who also happens to be from Kenya. So you can be able to say our association with the Pan-African Parliament can only grow stronger and stronger. Further, I am gratified that since the inauguration of the Pan-African Parliament, you have acted as a common platform for the African people and their grassroots organizations to get involved in various discussions and decisions of the most important challenges besetting our continent. You have ably discharged with constraints your consultative and advisory powers within the African Union. Our shared expectation is that in the long run, the Pan-African Parliament will evolve into an institution with full legislative powers, whose members are elected by universal adult suffrage. The new protocol granting these powers has already been adopted by the African Union and is currently at various stages of ratification by member states, including presently before our own Kenyan Parliament. As an organ of the African Union, therefore, representing the sovereign power of the people of Africa, you have a responsibility to realize the African century and the African Renaissance. These dreams of our forefathers of unity, peace, prosperity, and cultural revival are still elusive to a majority of our people. The negative narrative of Africa has changed little from Conrad's days of a dark continent. In spite of all expectations of the 21st century, is the century for Africa, hence the term Africa Rising. Although I must acknowledge improvements in socioeconomic parameters such as life expectancy, reduced mortality, higher enrollments in schools, access to water and health, much more work needs to be done to claim our rightful place at the apex of the globe. Any student of African affairs will be concerned that poverty, unemployment, intolerance, insecurity, and terrorism are still plaguing our own continent and people, including the threats to the lives and property of the members and staff of this assembly. It is therefore extremely disconcerting and depressing news that for the last 2 years in a row, that the Mo Ibrahim Trophy lacked recipients. When the NEPAD peer review mechanisms and the APRM seem to be losing steam, and when our own treaties are hardly being ratified or taking too long to be ratified, something somewhere may not be right. That's an indictment to good governance and the role democratic institutions like our parliaments play at all levels, be it national, regional, or continental. Somebody, somewhere, in some institution like this one, must take note and make the relevant voices so that you are heard. Although all is not lost, honorable members, the Fourth World Conference of Speakers resolved to place parliamentary democracy at the service of humanity by seizing the opportunity afforded to us by the Sustainable Development Goals and working in partnership with the UN agencies, the civil society, and the media. Indeed, we can no longer feign ignorance and claim that these goals are foreign. The co-chair of the Open Working Group was none other than the Ambassador Macharia from Kenya, on behalf of the Third World, and the presiding officer of the Assembly that adopted the SDGs was also none other than the Honorable Sam Kutesa of Uganda. These eminent Africans, representing all of us ably at the global level, were able to craft a development agenda that is going to guide the world up to the year 2030. In furtherance of the ownership and commitment, the IPU, where I serve as the Vice President, in partnership with the Ugandan Parliament, organized a meeting for 49 sub-Saharan countries on oversight and implementation of the SDGs. At the continental level, we have our own Agenda 2063 and the individual visions of our various countries. We therefore need to see opportunities and take our continent to the next level. I dare say an African continent without collaboration, brotherhood, and consultations cannot withstand the political, social, and economic challenges of the 21st century. As I conclude, I urge you to also take this opportunity to reflect on the happenings in this month of March, including the ones belonging to this rainbow nation that has hosted us, in order to boost our continental human rights score. On the 8th of March, the world will be celebrating the International Day of Women. The theme for this year is a more gender-equal world. Let us do something for our sisters. The Republic of South Africa is also celebrating its human rights on 21st March. On this day, 1960, 71 people were killed in the township of Sharperville in Cape Town while peacefully demonstrating against the apartheid pass law. The government of the Republic of South Africa has also declared the year 2017 as the year of Oliver Tambo. This is in recognition of his vision for equality among races and a society where black and white work and live together in peace and prosperity. This vision must be broadened to include other migrants from within the continent. It must be contextualized in the current world crisis of forced migrations, refugee problem in Africa, and other asylum seekers. These are just but permanent reminders that we still have a job to do for African people. On my own behalf and on behalf of the Senate and Parliament of the Republic of Kenya, we do appreciate the contributions made by your Parliament in regards to the betterment of our African continent and its people. It's my hope that the discussions and engagements at these extraordinary sittings will contribute positively to the much-needed development discourse and its realization in Africa. I give you the assurances of my highest consideration. One Africa, one voice, Viva Africa, Africa Oye. God bless Africa.
Merci. We thank you very much for your message. One Africa, one voice. And now let me give the floor to the clerk to some announcement. Clerk, you have the floor.
Good morning, Excellencies, honorable guests, honorable members, all protocols observed. You are invited to a photo session at the front of this hall and a short coffee break before reconvening at 10:30. Thank you.
Chers collègues,
dear colleagues, as you have just heard, and in conformity with an issue which has been introduced into our proceedings, I would suggest to you that we adjourn for 15 minutes and we will come back, and in the meantime we will have a group photo and come back to start our proceedings. So this session is adjourned. Thank you.